Hey guys, welcome back to Vertical Momentum. I am your host, Richard Kaufman. Yes, you are seeing me for the sixth time today. I want to thank Gorilla Mind Energy Drink for keeping me energized and pumped up. But guys, are you sick of the 9 to 5 grind? Are you sick of your money running out at the end of the month? Well, my brother is going to teach us some great things about how to ditch the 9 to 5. Jason has been a friend of mine for a while. I've been following him, I've been learning from him. And some of the things I've learned from Jason, I've actually went on a cruise to the Bahamas with no internet. I came home and I had a pile of money in the bank from just having stuff that I sold on the internet because of stuff that Jason has taught me. So guys, if you want to learn how to get out of the 9 to 5 grind, this is the episode for you. Stay to the end, and I'm sure Jason will give you 3 tips that you can start using today to get out of the 9 to 5 rat trap, kind of like Robert Kiyosaki talked about getting out of the rat race. So, Jason, my brother, welcome to the show.
Hoorah. Thank you, my brother, man. It is good to be here. And, there's got to be a good feeling, right? When you're able to go on vacation and lose internet, not pay for that Wi-Fi package and come back to everything smooth. As a matter of fact, better than it was before you left. It's like it's like getting your house clean, right? You go to work sometimes, house is messy, you got to come home and clean it, unless you got a housekeeper. Come home to a spotless house with your laundry done. Everything smells good, feels good. There might even be a fresh meal on the table. Maybe your wife's doing that because she can stay home because you can make enough money. Let's get you home too. Let's get you home right there next to her. And one of the things that I want to talk about is that freedom formula, like getting to that point where you have a business that can run without you having to run your business, right? Having the inbound, the outbound, the A game, the B game, everything covered by other people, by automations, by software, putting the right systems in place so you can actually be free. I know business owners that are trapped. Like, people have told me that entrepreneurship is a struggle, working long days, getting paid less than minimum wage. Something's wrong in that case. We need to go back and draw the circle. However, if you're able to work and you're able to make a lot of money, chances are you can train somebody else. Chances are you can put somebody operationally in place so you can step away and go be with your family and live your best life. So we're going to talk about a lot of stuff today. I hope to drop a lot more than 3 nuggets. But if you find 3, I'd like to know. Put the 3 nuggets while you're listening to this to try to listen up and figure out what's valuable to you. And let me just say that my path is probably different than everybody else's path. I was born in the Caribbean. I grew up poor in South Florida. I learned what I did not want out of life. I ended up joining the military like a lot of us, and I was a prison guard in Guantanamo Bay, where I showed up. I did my job dutifully and to the best of my abilities. Then the CIA selected me to assist with interrogations. At that point, I got a couple extra medals, and when I got back to the fleet, I was respected. I had more brass on my chest than the guy telling me what to do. I got an honorable discharge, got out, and took a job with the state of Florida, helping veterans overcome barriers to employment. My goal was to transition them, find those transferable skills, because some guys, if they say I've been trained how to kill people for 20 years, where do I sign up to work? That's not good enough to be a Walmart greeter even, right? Because they don't want you to kill any of their shoppers. So we got to really figure out those transferable skills so that you can have a better life in the next sector, right where you're at now. I realized while doing that my heart was filled. It was intrinsically rewarding, but I wasn't getting paid much. I was going to work a 9 to 5 forever at that rate. So I took a job in sales. I learned how to sell things. I learned how to be a trusted advisor. I learned how to network. I learned how to follow up and provide exemplary customer service. And I was lucky enough to retire early as the #1 sales guy in a nationwide company. But I didn't retire just because of sales. I retired because I learned the business so well that I was able to lead the business if I wanted to. I also invested in myself, in the people around me. I invested in my education. I bought houses. I bought all types of stuff to let my money make money for me so I can have a variety of passive income streams. This is what I teach people in the No More 9 to 5 Club, is that you are the most valuable asset you have, your time. If you're not making enough money, you invest that time back in yourself. If you're happy sitting on the couch, watching Netflix, eating pizza, drinking beer, you're not really investing that time back into yourself. You're not going to add up to what you're really aspiring to be. So it's really important that we start taking note of our time, where we're investing it. If you don't know the difference between an investment and an expense, well, you're probably not on this podcast because, Richard, I already know your people are smart. So when you invest your time, your money, your resources wisely, you're going to get an ROI. Same thing, just like if you're running your business. If you're running it all the time, you're doing all the customer service, you know that you're going to have good outcomes. But let's take a military term for SOPs, right? Standard operating procedures. When you, the business owner, which you have to do, you have to fine tune your product. You have to fine tune your craft. You are the CEO of your own life. You are the expert, subject matter expert of your business, of all things involved from a high level. But once you figure out those SOPs, now you can delegate to somebody else. Now you can make sure that your standards are being met out there in the field while you're sitting back at the office or your house or on the boat or hanging out with me in Costa Rica or Thailand or South Florida or whatever it is that we're deciding to do, going on that cruise and not paying for Wi-Fi because you want to be fully present. Yep. Now, I know I said a lot of mouthfuls, so Richard, let me pause because I like to drink water too. What do you think about what I said?
Well, let's just go back because first of all, did you know that me and you had something really in common? And I'm just going to show you, and you're going to know what I mean. The U, Miami, okay. Hurricanes. That's my team. I'm a U guy. Ray Lewis, all the boys. That's my team. So, and I'm a Dolphin fan. I don't know. We just lost Tua for the season. So, but I want to go back because a lot of people may see you being successful now, having the businesses, the Airbnbs, the family, but they don't know the struggle. So talk to us, take us back, because sometimes I think the backstory makes the front story. So take us back to when you were a kid growing up in South Florida. Because there's some people think South Florida, they're thinking South Beach, but I grew up in part of Florida and it wasn't South Beach.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for pointing that out. Yeah. So I did not grow up with the silver spoon in my mouth. I grew up in the part of South Florida where the HIV rates and the murder rates were really, really high. And where I grew up, they used to call it the crack capital. But nonetheless, there were still a lot of amazing people there. Did I learn how to fight before I joined the military? Absolutely. Did I learn how to do a bunch of things that I probably never should have learned how to do? Of course. But what I realized is those things weren't good for me. I made a ton of mistakes, Richard. I'm the type of guy that people would call me out and they'd be like, blah, 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 you messed up. But what I learned how to do at an early age that made the big difference is the ability to not have shame, the ability to not hide my flaws. And I learned how to learn. I learned how to adapt and overcome because I realized the situation I was in, I was at times like the only white kid in the neighborhood going out to play. I didn't see any problem with learning multiple languages because I was in a very mixed neighborhood. I also didn't see a problem with, everything that around me was normal. So fighting, violence, drug use, sex, all these things that, as a parent, I realized that I don't want my kids to experience what I had to experience growing up, right? That's why it was so imperative to me. Around that time, I was a DVOP helping veterans overcome barriers. I had clearly straightened out my life. I was in school full time. I was working towards my bachelor degree. I bought my first house, even though it was a little tiny duplex. I was so proud of it, right? I had to pay HOA fees. I had a newborn son at the house. I wanted to plant an orange tree in my yard. My HOA told me no. They said, you don't have permission to plant an orange tree in your yard. And I grew up picking fruit, right? They were in all the yards in the neighborhood I was in. So that's what happens when you can put a ton of amazing Caribbean people into a neighborhood. There's mango trees and fresh fruit everywhere. So I'm going to talk about some positives too. But the point is that's when I realized that I had to take control of my future. I had to be able to be there for my children in a way that my father wasn't there for me because I grew up with a single mom. She worked overnight shifts at the hospital. And I didn't have any brothers and sisters. I was an only child. So now you can see why I went outside and played. Why I got really bored. And I'm not trying to say anything bad about my mom. She was amazing. She actually is the first one to teach me financial literacy. And I love her dearly. Hey, Mom. So she did her best she could, providing for me. And as we both progressed through life, we both learned a lot of things, and we both got a lot better at, you know, showing up authentically, and our relationship has blossomed into something beautiful. But my dad sadly wasn't there as much as I wanted him to be. So I started looking through the wrong men, the wrong mentors, the wrong father figures early on. But when I started finding the right people in my life that would say, hey, you can do better. Hey, you have wasted potential. Hey, is this the future you want? I started realizing that I could do better. Then from the military to being a DevOps working for the state of Florida
All right,
to
so
my
wait,
sales
hold on,
coach.
wait.
Go ahead.
Hold on a second. Let's go
You got
back
questions, I got answers.
because I'm the male Oprah, I'm the GI Joe Rogan, so I got a lot of questions. Uh, for me growing up in the streets of Jersey, I'm a street kid, and I've seen a lot of people growing up in the streets that you can either they take a turn. They can either go on the right path, or then they get off on the wrong path. But then there's also people like me that got off on the wrong path. God brought me back to the right path, and now I'm doing the right thing. So what made you not go off into that really, really wrong path?
Lack of shame. A lack of shame. So, like I said, I was getting into this, and I know I'm all over the place. So, my ability to lack shame, to be able to be accountable for my mistakes, because I've seen so much at a young age, it really made it clear for me that I couldn't deny what I was thinking and what I felt and what I knew to be right. And you got to remember that we're all blessed with forgiveness. We're blessed with the ability to actually change the way we think if we choose to. Who I am today can be somebody completely different tomorrow if I decide to do it. And it's actually the truth. And when you realize these things, you realize that while you may steer yourself on a course of success or have your dream life, not everybody else is going to take the necessary action today. Does that mean you have to completely write them off like your old circle that you can't talk to anymore because you don't talk about the same things or they're good troublemakers? No, some of those people have reached out for help. They want a hand up. I'm all about giving people hands up, not handouts.
And I love it. Okay, so you had choices. You could have joined Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines. Why Navy? And tell us your recruiting experience, because everybody has a different recruiting experience.
Okay, I'm going to be really honest. When I wanted to join the military, I knew it was going to change my life, but I didn't want to work really, really hard. So I went to the Air Force first. They looked at me, they asked me a few questions, and they said, go try the Navy. So I went to the Navy, which I'm really happy I did. I was really good at push-ups. By the time I was done with boot camp, I could knock out my 120 push-ups in 2 minutes, my 120 sit-ups, but I hated to run. I'm really happy I didn't join the Army or the Marines because it would have just taken me that much longer. So with that being said, my goal was to not get shot at or blown up, come home in one piece, you know what I'm saying, and still serve my country. So I actually signed up to be an aviation technician, even though I was really good at math and I wanted to be a nuclear engineer. They told me once I go through boot camp, I could be a nuclear engineer. Then they said, no, we need aviation technicians. Then when I went to A school, they said, we actually need prison guards in Guantanamo Bay if you want to volunteer. I was like, I'm not really interested in working on airplanes. Let's do it. Free space safe flights to Puerto Rico, hazard pay. And, I really like growing up in South Florida. That's one of my passion points. I love free diving. I love spearfishing. I love fishing. I love boating. So all those things were right there for me versus, the possibility of getting deployed to Alaska, right? Not saying for anybody deployed to Alaska, I hope you enjoyed it, but I enjoy the sea and fishing and warmth. So, those are some of the reasons that I got into the Navy, just straightforward, honest, and how I ended up in Guantanamo Bay.
All right. So obviously, I spent 23 years in the military, so I know all about OPSEC and all that shit. Getting anybody jammed up, not about that. So, but what years were you there? Because me, I live in New York. I live right across from New York. If I go stand on my front porch, I'm standing where the Twin Towers once stood. Lost a lot of friends of mine on 9/11. So, what was it like being there at the time you were there? What was that like emotionally for you and mentally?
I think part of that background that I grew up in kind of prepared me for it because, I was there 0809, part of 9.0 Delta, JTF Kit. And I remember thinking before we even got deployed there, no offense to anybody in my squad, I was like, wow, there's a lot of people that are soft here. They put us through some training in Fort Lewis, making sure, they pretended to throw cat food on you, that's supposed to stimulate, fake shanks, all of that stuff. When I got there, I could tell that there was a lot of anxiety and fear among people. People tend to settle in, but some people didn't. And I don't think I ever experienced that walking in. I don't think I had any anxiety, any fear. I wasn't worried a bit. I actually kind of enjoyed the experience. Like, okay, I'm here to show up. I can't say I enjoyed all of it. One of the things is that, things that don't make the newspapers, right? I'm not going to say what happened because OPSEC, but I will say my command selected me to actually go to a funeral. And that never made the newspaper. I didn't enjoy that. I couldn't tell the family what happened. And, there's parts of it, but yeah, it's my experience.
All right, so let me ask you, because I spent some time as a corrections officer, not like that, but I also learned to read people really fucking quick. I learned to hear, and it's something that plagues me to this day because I can't sit at a table at a restaurant without hearing everybody's conversation around me. So, did it really teach you how to size up and look at people like in old poker terms to see tells? Did that help you? Did you learn a lot doing that? Because hey, I could get shanked, but I got to make sure I'm on my P's and Q's at all times.
I don't think they really gave anybody any in-depth psychological training on cues and things. At least not that I recall. So, I'm saying I don't remember. I don't know if there's
No, one
OPSEC
thing,
part to train those.
did you pick up on any? Did you learn a
Oh
lot
yeah,
of this?
I knew how to pick up on cues and read people, and I was almost able to read people's minds based on body language. And when we start, a whole nother thing of what I teach in the No More 9 to 5 Club is quantum enlightenment, teaching people how to activate these crystals in their brain so they can start feeling things and knowing things without actually having to feel them or know them. So when you get to that point where you're aware enough that you can be aware of the conversations around you, the mannerisms and moods of the people around you, that's either a high level of PTSD or that's just a high level of awareness. Either way, you got to tap into that, right? So I totally I know how to read rooms. I know how to, judge somebody and determining if their heart rate's up, right? That's a good telltale sign. If somebody's adrenaline is pumping, even if they look calm, you should probably know about it.
So, okay, you get done with your mission in Guantanamo. What was the next step in your evolution?
So come home. Master Chief asked me if I wanted to make a career out of it or go home. I said, I want to go home. I want to do some fishing. I was stationed in Jacksonville, I think, at the time. I said, I want to make babies. So I did that. I went fishing. I made babies. And that's where I took a job with the state of Florida. I started networking locally as a veterans representative. I became the second vice commander of an American Legion locally, the only guy in his 20s to do so. I brought in some beer pong tournaments. We did steak and lobster night. We had a lot of fun while I was second vice, and grew the membership and actually helped them move from one building to constructing a brand new building. Cost over $1 million and moving the whole Legion there. So it was really cool, and it's great to go back to that building, even though I moved a little further away. So that job, like I said, we did that for a few years. The original team I had was some amazing guys. Senior Chief Ron Zimmerman, rest in heaven, brother. He was the leader that actually brought me in. He brought my partner, Jordan Kale, who I've worked a lot with since he retired. He actually was a nuclear engineer. So he left that job with the state to go back to nuke, and then he ended up retiring. And he assists with several nonprofits and things like that, Six Sigma Black Belt. Ron passed away from his fourth bout with cancer from Agent Orange exposure in Vietnam. And he was Navy. He was on the ships that were clearing mines inside of the rivers. So he got exposed. But he taught me so much, having that mentorship, that team, Like when he explained the mission, he built the team that he wanted to build because he wanted to break those records. He wanted to show people the best way to do our job. When I realized what he was doing, it was easy. Oh, most people, and I shouldn't say most people, I'm going to throw government workers under the bus. They spend a lot of time playing solitaire. I'm just going to be honest with you. I saw it with my own two eyes. They play Minesweeper, solitaire. They try to hide from their phones. They get away with the least amount of work possible. Sorry, government, don't judge me. Point is, we weren't there for that. We weren't there just for a paycheck. We actually felt the mission in our hearts. So we put on a mission to get 100 veterans hired in 100 days. And we did 435. We made the newspapers, the state looked at what we did and said, we need to know what you did so we can show everybody else. Shortly after that, the team started splitting up, new people came in, and then the HOA told me I couldn't have an orange tree.
So how many years did you actually do in the Navy?
So I did approximately a little under 3 years. And I did the state of Florida for a little under 3 years. I did sales for about 7.
Well,
so
no, the reason I'm asking is because if civilians are watching this, they don't realize that when a guy like me, a guy like you, I did 23 years. I got hurt on duty, lost my vision, can't see, you can't shoot, we don't need you. When you hang up that uniform for the last time, whether it's voluntary or involuntary, a lot of times, like my friend Sergeant Nick from my group, Vetpreneur Tribe, says, when you step off base or off the ship, the military doesn't give a shit about you. Your phone stops ringing. You don't have a paycheck most of the time. You don't have a mission and you don't have camaraderie. And a lot of times veterans like myself end up looking at the bottom of a bottle or the end of a barrel. So talk to us about your experience and others that you've talked to about the experience of getting out of the military and no longer having a mission.
Wow. We can have a whole podcast on this right here alone.
Well, that's what this show is about. That's what this show is about, is helping veterans find their mission again.
I love that. So, I've unfortunately found friends at the bottom of both the bottle and the barrel. And, it's really, really profoundly impactful when people realize their worth. Just because you're not getting that check, you're not being told what to do, you don't have a direct current mission that you're taking, doesn't mean you're not valuable. You just need to pick a new mission. And I was talking about this exact topic today. We actually have a veteran philanthropist meeting that we do on the 2nd and 4th Wednesdays at noon every single month. And we were talking about the veterans who are coming home, who have nothing but time on their hands, with nothing to invest that time into. They have nothing but, time to put the wrong things into their body that are going to deteriorate their life. They're going to have time to just sabotage their life if they're allowed to, if they choose to. And then you have some that are going to ask for help. You have some that are committed to doing better. And it's important that we find those people, all of them, and get us all together and find that camaraderie. And that's one of the things that I want to bring to the table. That's why I give all veterans free membership in the No More 9 to 5 Club. That's why we have the PTSD Triliminal series that affects 3 different parts of the brain, right brain, left brain, and center brain, to create deeper neural pathways and trenches to positively affect mood and behavior. We're giving this out for free. We don't want your money. We want you to be the best you can be. It is so important to understand one's own worth and value. We have free trainings for the entire world, civilians, veterans, everybody, that can help you discover your worth. I have a self-empowerment triliminal inside of the club's boot camp. Because, Richard, if somebody's making bad choices, if somebody's feeling depressed, PTSD, right? You need to be powered up. You don't need people chewing you out. You don't need anybody nagging you. You don't need a bunch of people saying, it's not going to work, don't do it, twisting you. You need somebody that's going to say, you can do it. Just like when you're a baby, your parents are supposed to say, good job, you can do it, right? We need to be cheered on. We need support. But we also need reality. You say, I can jump out this 4-story window and fly. I'm going to say, no, you can't. Stop. Hold on. You do it over here from the first floor. So reality checks, right? And this is where I love working with veterans. I don't just give veterans free membership because I think it's the right thing to do. I actually love working with them because, and no offense, civilians, sometimes people can't be told they're wrong. They can't have their feelings hurt. But veterans can. Veterans can be told that they're wrong. Veterans can take a little bit of harsh criticism. Although I promise to always try to give constructive criticism. Point is I like results. When I want to help somebody, I want them to not only want to receive the help, but I want them to win because of it. I want to see results. It's like I always say, you can't lead a horse to water who's not thirsty, right? Why would you want to lead a horse to water who's not asking for water? A lot of people say you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. Why? Why try? You can check up on your people over and over and over again, but if they're not ready to change, you can't force them to. You can be the shining light, though, that inspires them to. There's a difference.
Yeah.
And that's what I want everybody watching this podcast to think about. How do you be the best possible you can be? The highest level CEO, father, business owner, mother, mentor, whatever it is that you're doing. How do you be the best at it every single day? And when you commit to being the best at it, that alone is usually enough to keep you inspired and motivated to keep showing up every single day. I used to get huge dopamine boosts. Made me feel really good when I got to accomplish my goal. Now, I get a dopamine boost from actually going after my goal because I know it's going to get accomplished eventually. I don't need to stack up wins because I've stacked up so many. And all what it takes is the first one. You stack up, you focus on one win at a time. My business partner, Maury, right, who builds the Triliminal recordings, is a beautiful thing. At the end of every day, and don't think about it throughout the day, but count 10 blessings. Say 10 things that are good about that day. Find 10 positives.
Yes.
I promise you, going forward, day after day after day after day, those blessings and wins and yeses and whatever you want to call them, they're going to show up more frequently in your life. You're going to start noticing them. You might need to write down 100 a day. That's how I feel anyway. I can't write down all my blessings. They're unlimited. I hear you agreeing with me, brother. Jump in.
Bro, I love it because this is my hack that I learned from my friend Patrick Mudge, and he's an ex special ops guy, and he taught me that if you want to win the day, you got to go to bed with gratitude and wake up with gratitude. Like before I go to bed every night, I wrap my arm around my wife. I pray for her happiness, her health, and I tell her I love her even though she's sleeping. And then I think of 3 things that happened today that I'm grateful for. And this episode is definitely going to be at the top. And then I give the Lord my thanks. And then when I wake up in the morning, if I can see something, because I lost so much vision, if I can see something, I literally sit up in bed and I say, Lord, thank you. I don't know what the day has got coming, but it's going to be an awesome day. So before my feet hit the floor, I'm in gratitude. And I think that if you go to bed with gratitude and you wake up with gratitude, your days are, you're going to have rough days, but your days are going to be a little bit better because you already woke up with gratitude instead of just waking up, hitting your feet on the floor, grabbing your phone and watching the news and find out what happened with P. Diddy.
Right. Did something happen with P. Diddy?
No, it's something. I don't know.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I heard about it, but I know your point. Like all of that is irrelevant to us. I don't get into argue. Like there was a time where I was very political. I was like, oh, libertarians, freedom for all, third party and all this other stuff. I don't want to talk about politics anymore. I don't want to talk about anything low vibrational ever again. I don't want to waste my time. My time is too precious.
Well, somebody asked me, I was doing it for a while, but then I was talking to one of my mentors and he said, do you know that billionaires were made when the Democrats were in office and billionaires were made when the Republicans in office? It really doesn't matter, does it? I was like, you got me. You got me there. So now if it doesn't have, I don't talk about anything if it doesn't have to do with God, family and friends, and business. If it's not part of those three things or four things, it's going to be a definite no because I ain't got time for it. I don't have the bandwidth. Is that what you're talking about?
Absolutely, brother. Let's go down that list because God first and foremost, right? Coming from the top level, the energy that God puts out in the universe all around us, in the air that we taste, in the food that we eat. If you don't realize that God is in your couch, you don't know how your couch and you got here, right? So, when we think about this, country next, we think about our amazing country. When I think about the country, I like to think about the people, the hundreds of millions of people who are here in our society with the high vibe that are trying to do better, that aren't sitting there preying on people that are actually winning. And even the people who are making those mistakes, that's a part of our society and our country. And it's the rest of our job to try to lift them up. And I love the entire world. Let me just start by saying we are international. But me being US, ex-military, of course I'm extremely patriotic and love my country. But let's paint the picture and make it clear. The country is the people. The government is a corporation that governs us, the people. It's supposed to be for the people, by the people. We vote. And we understand separation of church and state. But if you understand how each and every single one of us has a social security number, and you understand that all of us are mini corporations. Now, I'm not going to get into the complexities of the government and how they print money and borrow money, but everybody's heard of inflation. And as a matter of fact, it's been scaring the rest of the world how the US dollar, we've enjoyed having the predominant currency in the world. It's brought us many benefits, being a global power backed up by what our military, our service men and women can actually do to protect our interest and our allies' interest. But when you think about it, there's other interests, other forces in the world, you have to realize that you have to protect yourself. If they're offering you a 5% certificate of deposit on your money, you got to wonder if that's actually a good deal. A few years back, when mortgages were 3%, that would have been an incredible deal, but they wouldn't have offered it to you back then. Why? Let me just let that light bulb go off right there, and let's change the subject.
But going there, and we're going, then we'll move on. But a lot of people think the Federal Reserve is a government agency. Guys, it's not. Second of all, a lot of people don't realize that when we got taken off the gold standard in the 40s and 50s, there is no gold. Our money is backed by nothing. Zero. We have no money. So, guys, if you're depending on the government to make you your money, you're wrong. Anyway, we're not going to go down. That's a whole other episode. So talk to us, because when I got out of the military, I had to find a mission. I had to find a job. I've always been a great talker. I've always loved to talk to people. I love interaction. So I got sales jobs. I took jobs, door-to-door sales. I took jobs selling timeshares, and I crushed it. I sold cemetery plots. That, you talk about a rough business. That's a rough business. But I think door-to-door or face-to-face sales and taking a lot of no's, it will teach you to win in the future. So talk to us about how important it is to learn sales if you're going to be in any form of business.
Okay, I love that. First and foremost, let me say I started off learning sales by learning how to talk to women, learning how to flirt, learning how to dance, do that dance, that courtship dance. I didn't even realize I was developing sales skills in every single relationship I was fostering, from even when I was on a school bus trying to flip. And I didn't tell you this, back in the day growing up, I would trade, video games for Pokemon cards, for candy, for this and that, whatever I could to get the things that I desired. Whenever I got into sales, when I left the job, I had my first real sales job, and I had sales training, and it was door to door. And there was like 2 days worth of videos we had to watch. There was some, live in-person role playing we could do. And I didn't know if I was going to succeed. I had a base pay guarantee, like the absolute minimum. And, with a guarantee that if I made more than that, they would keep me around. And if I didn't make enough, they would let me go. So I'm like, okay, I left my state job that I could have stayed at for a long time. I better damn be good at this. Within 2 weeks, I was promoted to supervisor. They had me training other people. And for me, it was all about mindset. I can take those no's all day long. But what I'm going to do is I'm not going to walk all the way down the sidewalk. I'm going to walk through your grass to the next house because my time is precious. What I'm going to do is I'm going to leave you my card, say something that makes you smile and makes you remember me and makes you actually want to call me. Be like, that guy doesn't seem that bad. I didn't have to send him away. I kept such a positive attitude that people enjoyed talking to me when I showed up at their door randomly. And keeping that same energy just transpired. So I got to the point where I learned how to be a trusted advisor. So when I didn't have to knock on doors, when I responded to actually warm leads, people who booked appointments with me, I could walk in the door and I learned how to do an inspection, itemize what somebody's needs were, qualify myself as a solution to those needs, offer that service, and get out of there in sometimes 10 or 15 minutes, what was taking most people an hour for I'll think about it and call you tomorrow. So for me, time efficiency and a positive attitude and energy are two important things, because there's something that me as a consumer, I always treat everybody the way I want to be treated. And I always try to treat my customers, anybody I get in front of, kind of the way I treat my grandma. It's like the golden rule, right? You treat everybody the right way. I was taught that. I teach my kids that. I try to tell everybody around me that. And when you respect somebody else's time and they feel that you're authentic and you have integrity and you're not trying to blow smoke or waste their time or pull the wool over their eyes, they'll appreciate you and respect you more for it. At least that's my experience. So those are some of the things that helped me.
But in sales, something I want to talk about is kind of like when I was selling timeshare, I knew that I had at one point a 50% close rate. So that means out of every, so many people are going to say no until I got the yes. So as long as I knew, okay, this is the percentage, as long as I trust the process and do the right things, the closings are going to come. It's kind of like before I go to bed every night, I'm an NBA 2K guy. I love playing, and I might have a start off bad, but I realize that the player that I'm playing with, he averages 20 points and 15 assists a game. So whether I'm having a bad game or a good game, I know the averages are going to come out. But I think if you don't know the average, then you don't know what to shoot for. Like, even if the best player in baseball in history missed 6 out of every 10 shots. Every 10 at bats, he missed 6 of them. So talk to us about actually knowing your numbers and your closing rates, because that's the only way I think you can get better. When you're like, well, I'm closing 10%, Jake is closing 70%. What is Jake doing that I'm not doing? And what can I learn from him? Take him out for lunch and pick his brains.
So I'm going to have to talk to you about this from a management's perspective, because commission-based salespeople usually want to keep their best kept secrets. I wasn't like that with my partners and team members. I'd be willing to coach them, train them, role play with them, and let them shadow me whenever needed. But, one of the things that I did is every single day, I had a list of paperwork, a list of people that I had quoted and what I said hadn't said yes yet. Not hadn't said no yet, hadn't said yes yet, right? Because that's the goal. We're not looking for no's. Let's shoot for what we're doing. And I would call those people every single time I had a gap in my schedule. Hey, it's Jason, checking in on you. Want to know if anything's changed, anything's holding you back. Let me know what I can do to make sure that this gets resolved, because we're here to help. Click. 5 seconds. Next one. 5, 10 seconds. Click. Really efficient and effective. And it got to the point where my office started giving me office leads in other guys' territory, because from a management perspective, they recognize, hey, when we give Jason somebody's name and phone number, he goes out there and brings us back a contract and money. When we give it to this guy, nothing. Crickets. So, of course, there was a certain amount of cross-training that management wanted to do, but they also started asking me to take on more leads. And then I actually started going with the other guys, and I said, listen, when you get a no, or you are giving up and ready to throw it in the trash, put it on my desk. Then I would call and I would just pretend to be like a sales supervisor. I would say, hey, I'm in the same department. I'm here to make sure that you were satisfied with our visit and that you got everything you needed, all the information. And I could salvage probably half of those lost leads too. It was absolutely amazing. So from the perspective of what you want to, from a managerial standpoint, look at your top performer and somebody who's not quite there, you need to go out and spend the time. You can't just give them a questionnaire. You can't just ask the lost lead a few questions. You can ask the new customer what was said that really made them make up their mind. But you can't go to that lost lead and say, what did we do wrong? Oh, you can, and I've done it, right? And that's how we actually get feedback. And a lot of people don't do this.
Yeah.
They don't ask questions. They don't even look at the numbers. And if they're not looking at the numbers, they're definitely not asking the questions. And I promise you, a customer will take 30 seconds out of their day to answer their phone and tell you why they didn't want to hire you. And that's your answer.
Well, a lot of it is know, trust, and like. And like for me, when I was with selling timeshares, I would see the first day everybody got out of class and they all got on the tables. They were just reading from the script. They're just like, "Hi, my name is Jack McNamara. I like to buy timeshare." And you're hearing 80 guys saying the same thing. And I'm sitting back. I'm like, "You want to go on vacation? Where do you like to vacation? What do you like to do? Where do you like to go? How many kids you got?" And I think that made a difference why my closing percentage was so high, because I wanted to get to be known, liked, and trusted. Because if you don't have any of those three, you're not going to pull the credit card. So talk about know, like, and trust.
So I don't know if you remember me saying this earlier, but one of the first things that I learned showing up to people's doors is being authentic and in integrity, not wasting their time. And I promise if you do this, just like you did, sat back, relax, you got to know them. Because if you realize that if you follow the script that everybody else is doing, while it might work, that's not going to get you that know, like, and trust factor. However, you can sit back authentically, say, tell me a little bit about you. Now you're learning about the person in front of you. You're learning about who they are. You're learning about their needs, their wants. You're getting them comfortable to put down their guard so they can actually open up to you. Because nobody wants to be sold, but people would love to be heard. So if you can hear your customer, if you can actually sit back and make them comfortable enough to open up to you, to trust you, just like you said, Richard, huge, good job. If you can make them comfortable enough to trust you and to tell you what they want and need, and you might actually be good enough to sell them. That's all you got to do. It's such a simple recipe, right? Know, like, and trust.
Yeah, one of the things the way I learned, because at one point I worked for 6 months, 0 sales, and they were about to fire me until 2 things happened. One, there was an older man, he must have been in his 70s, and he was in the deeding office like twice a day. I mean, he was crushing, and I couldn't understand it till I got in early. He would get in early in the morning with like 5 or 6 newspapers. He would read the newspapers. And then whenever, say if he got somebody from Miami on his table, he would be like, "Man, I can't believe that happened with Tua. Do you think he's going to come back?" And people were like, "Miami? You know Miami?" But then when he got up to grab, he would always say, "I'm going to go grab myself a drink. You want one?" And they'd be like, "Sure." He would get up and touch the man on his shoulder as he was going and as he was coming back. And because that man let him in his private space, he was closing the deal. Because he got to know, like, and trust, because he let him in his space. But then also when my manager sat me down and I'm like, "Bro, I can't sell nothing." He's like, "Why do you think that is?" I'm like, "I don't know. I went over my pitch." And he's like, "I'll tell you why, because you don't own it." And I'm like, "What do you mean I don't own it?" He's like, "Because when it comes down to when you pull the credit card and they say, 'Well, I can't afford it. Money's tight.' Yeah, and you're just like, 'Yeah, I get it. But if you buy a timeshare, I guarantee you'll have your first sale within 7 days.'" I bought my timeshare, went to Florida, went to Disney for 3 days, came back with pictures. Out of 7 days I was on the table, I sold 11 timeshares. Just because I knew that when that person says, "Well, I can't afford it," I pull out my owner's card and said, "You know what? I couldn't afford it either. But my family's worth going to Disney."
Mm-hmm.
So, a lot of people, they try to sell stuff that they don't even believe in. they're just trying to make money off of it. They're like, yeah, just like I bought my new Kia. I walked in the Kia dealership. I said, my credit score is 844. I got $5,000 down. This is the car I want. I want to buy it. And they all jump, they swarm you. And I'm like, let me see all your keys. One guy owned a Kia. That's the guy I bought it from. I said, if you're selling Kias, but you own a Honda, you don't believe in it. So talk about how important it is for people to believe in what they're selling, first of all, so they can actually sell the product and believe in it.
Well, Richard, I'm going to go back to what I said earlier. Remember the two key ingredients? The first was authenticity. You remember the second?
No.
Integrity. So if you don't believe in the product you're selling, you have no integrity. If I wouldn't sell it to my grandma, I'm not selling it to my neighbor. I'm not selling it to anybody if I don't see the value in it. Because now I'm a snake oil salesman, selling something I personally don't believe in. How am I going to find the right person who's going to get the value from something that I don't know the value of? So, that's why I said those two things were important to line up, authenticity and the integrity. Because when I showed up, I knew my products. I had learned them. I had learned the results. I saw the before and afters. And I had used lawn care and pest control and sprinkler systems my whole life. I had seen these companies in action before I got to the company. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Just kind of like people will say, well, how did you become one of the top podcasts in the world? Is because I hired John Lee Dumas to teach me how to do this stuff. And he actually wrote the whole back page of my book. But for me, it's kind of like I had to hit that top 1%. I had to hit the 1 million downloads. So I can actually tell people, if you want to hire me, I've done it. Here's the proof. I'm just not blowing smoke and say, yeah, we're a great podcast, but when you Google me, you can't even find me. If you Google this show, we're on the first 8 pages of Google. So, and I believe, like you said, it's that authenticity. It's that integrity. I am who I am. And as soon as we get off, we'll be talking. And I'm going to tell you, I'm the same goofy guy on camera as off camera. We ever get together, you're getting a big hug. This is the guy that I am. And if you see me out, this is what you're going to see. And I think that's all part of the integrity that know, like, and trust, right?
I love it, brother. You're going to find me in flip-flops, usually shorts. I'm the same way. I actually like to wear button-down Tommy Bahama shirts. I like to pretend like I'm on vacation because my whole goal, once I realized that I did not want to work for the rest of my life, was to build a life that I did not need a vacation from. Once I was able to do that, I realized I could help other people do the same thing.
All right, so let's talk about that. Let's talk about, because this is an experience I had about 3 years ago. My father was dying of cancer. And about 12 weeks prior, I took a class with my friend Liam and Christopher from OVF. And they said, well, we're having a class. We're going to teach you how to make money while you sleep. And I'm like, bro, this is bullshit. This sounds like those old commercials you would see at 3 a.m. on TV. So I took the course. And when my dad passed Valentine's Day 3 years ago, I was gone for 3 weeks. Every morning I woke up, there was money in my account. And that's when I realized, I don't have to work 9 to 5 anymore because the internet's open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And that's when I started to escape the 9 to 5. So what was your, and I'm a Christian, so I always say, but what was your come to Jesus moment when you decided, all right, I'm tired of the rat race. I need to get out?
It was about 6 months after COVID. I had some family stuff going on. Wanted to homeschool the kids full time. And I tried to talk to my job about a little flexibility. And I had already hit number 1, so I couldn't go any higher than that. I had rental properties, converted some from long-term to short-term, different things like that. And I realized I didn't have to keep showing up and earning them too calm as well, me only getting my 6-figure cut. So I built the life so I had enough income coming in where I can move how I wanted. I already knew I could have time and location freedom. And that was part of what I had been building up to before I spent more time on social media. And that was part of the inspiration. There's a lot of inspirations behind the club. I almost called it Rags to Riches, but I started talking to more people. I almost started a hedge fund, a crypto hedge fund with a bunch of combat vets. That was cool, but it didn't take off. And I started investing in other companies and other nonprofit endeavors. I went back to school to get my MBA at the U. And I started noticing good people that were struggling, like getting scammed, romance scams, crypto scams, buying up coaching programs, being sold a dream and never achieving it. And I wanted to figure this digital landscape out. And the more I started looking into it, I realized what you said. The internet doesn't sleep. We can build automations. We can put out evergreen content and SEO it, and people will come. If we build it, they will come. I heard that in a movie somewhere. So I wanted to build the No More 9 to 5 Club on some really basic principles. You know, my entire first mission was to be like Robin Hood. I didn't have any paid programs. I should have started with a 501c3 nonprofit. Now, we do have a foundation today, and I'll talk about that after, but the original mission was so simple. You save, earn, and invest money. We didn't actually do anything in the beginning to help aspiring entrepreneurs, other than affiliate marketers and a few other sectors. But the whole idea was to teach normal people emotional and social intelligence training, stoicism training, alpha training, goal setting, financial literacy, so they can start getting ahead. Because the most common path to early retirement is not through what we're doing. It's through just getting disciplined and financially savvy, being able to place your funds in the right investments as opposed to expenses. So now, in doing all this, I started realizing I actually finally read the Think and Grow Rich book while I was getting my MBA. Then I started studying the Eastern chakras. Then all types of the world started opening up to me. And I realized I wanted to do more. So we transitioned. We wanted to teach people about quantum enlightenment because I realized I was trying to teach people about stoicism and peace, all these things in their mind. And while they could agree with me, there was more foundational work that needed to be done so they can understand how to better navigate what I'm trying to put down themselves. So that's when we started getting into the brain entrainment, the quantum enlightenment, teaching people about the power of that gratitude that we just talked about, and so much more value. And then I wanted to make a third version of the club that helped out the aspiring entrepreneur, the influencer, the celebrity, the actor, actress, the solopreneur, the small business owner. I wanted to have all the tools and resources so that they could actually escape the rat race too. Because a lot of people don't realize sometimes building a business is hard. You had to hire a mentor, you had to put in time, you had to put in work, you have to put up an initial upfront investment of usually time and money. And usually there's a learning curve.
And what do they call that? Was that the success tax?
You know what it is? It's called wise investments, brother. Wise investments. Because you, instead of starting a podcast, you could have got a boat. Bust out another 1,000. It probably would have got you some great memories, but you start this podcast and maybe you can rent a boat and actually travel, right? It gives you flexibility to do what you want to do from wherever you want to do it, when you want to do it. And a lot of people don't realize.
I also tell people that, now I'm at 1,350 episodes. It took me 6 years to be an overnight success. And I've spent over $100,000 now and over 12,000 hours to learn my craft. So I think it's called a success tax for a reason. And I think people have to realize you're not going to start crushing it right off the get. You got to pay your dues and pay the success tax.
Absolutely. So among these variations, these versions of the No More 9 to 5 Club that I built out, I built it this way for a reason. Because the first version was too popular. I had a lot of people trying to throw money at me. And I realized that not everybody in the world I wanted to work with. Just like when I was in sales, I got to the point where if I told my company, hey, we don't want this person as a customer, they're going to be a problem. They're rude to me. They're going to disrespect our technician. Let's leave their money alone. I realized not all money is good money. And you don't want to trade your soul for $1. So for me, it was really important to attract the right people to my business, the people I actually enjoy working with and succeeding or watching succeed. But you're right, that tax, man, it can take so long. And Can you imagine if you weren't open-minded, if you didn't have the balls, which I know you do, because that's what's got you in all the doors you do, to ask for help? That 6 could have been 12. It could have been 18 years of attacks. And it's so important that everybody watching this podcast realize that people like Richard, my experiences, the people who have been wherever you want to be, they would like to help you. We want to serve you. We want to be asked questions because we want to see you win. You have to put your hand up. You have to open your mouth. You have to write the email or the text or do whatever it is that you're going to do to get to where you're trying to go faster. Because I promise you, it's harder to figure it out on your own than if you actually ask an expert or artificial intelligence or something. Have trusted advisors, though. Don't only rely on AI. Use people to bounce ideas off of. Find your circle. And, Richard, like I said, that was instrumental in my whole transition process. If nobody ever saw that I had potential, if nobody ever said, hey, you can do better than this, maybe I wouldn't have done better than what I was doing in my past. But I constantly learned that I can continuously improve. When I make a mistake, I don't have to have shame. I can stand tall, about 6 foot tall, 200 pounds. I can be there and do what I need to do in life to win and to make sure the people around me are winning.
I think I went off on a tangent. No, I love that. And a lot of people don't realize that before Harrison Ford was in Star Wars, he was working on the set as a carpenter. And every chance that he got during his breaks and lunches, he would go ask the director and the filmographer questions. People don't realize that Jim Carrey wrote a check for $10 million to himself 10 years before he actually got that check. So I think people, because now you see everybody on IG saying how successful they are, but the real true success stories that stay in the game a long time, like Tony Robbins, Tim Ferriss, Ed Milet, Patrick Bet-David, they paid the tax, but they're still in the game because they did it the right way, right?
Mm-hmm. It takes a long time to build up this level of knowledge, skills, and experience. And when I started this, I was definitely a novice, but I applied myself and I've learned so much. I volunteered and gave so much time to get nothing but positive reviews, never had a chargeback. And I realized that my network, the Richards, the other experts in my circle are so critical to being able to serve people. You could probably teach me so much, like on podcasting, all types of things. I'm sure there's plenty of what I call gaps to excellence for me that you could help me close. And to me, that's what it's all about. It's about collaborating in a society, especially among veterans. That's why we give all veterans free membership, inside of the No More 9 to 5 Club. We're told not to use the word free, complimentary membership inside of the No More 9 to 5 Club. So I like working with my brothers and sisters. I like watching them win. I want to give them the tools, and I want to really give everybody the hand up if they're ready to ask for it. And it's not just me. I don't want to be the only expert. So I'm calling on everybody watching this. If you have some expertise that you want to share with the world, don't keep it silent. If you have some light that you need to shine, let it shine. This little light of mine. Anyways, I'm not going to get into songs, but y'all understand. You don't like the bass? What's wrong, brother? All right. No, y'all understand, though, that you need to show up and be your best self. Be the shining beacon of light for your family, for your friends, for your circle, for your business. And back to where we started, have a plan. Have a plan to step away from your business and make sure your business is still running. Don't have to wear all the hats. Don't have to put in 16-hour days. Start noticing. That's a big keyword. If you guys aren't noticing, I'm going to drop another nugget right now. Walk around with some paper. Have a journal. Feel your feelings. Guys, we're trained to be stoic and not feel our feelings. No, feel your feelings. Notice what's serving you. Notice what's distracting you. Your feelings are there so you can improve your life. You deserve to be happy. Like, not a little happy. The pursuit of happiness is real. Like, all the way happy. Like, all the way. And it's up to you to seize it. Start noticing what serves you and what doesn't serve you. When you start noticing certain things, certain people, certain distractions that might not really add the value to your life, that you don't want it to add or that you don't want, do something about it. Don't be afraid to not be a people pleaser. Don't be afraid to let go of a toxic habit or a person. It's good for you. It is good for you to be healthy and happy. And it's really up to you. Every single person watching this has to take accountability for their own choices, their own time, everything that they're doing on the inside of their home and thoughts and schedule. It's really up to you to take notice and make sure that your choices, your thoughts, your schedule, the people you're talking to is aligned with your best self. So
Okay,
I love to tell people to go ahead, brother. You got a question?
no, I just wanted, because before we even got started, I wrote these 3 letters down, and you're hitting on this point hard right now. And it's something that I love to talk about. It was after I had a meeting with um, Tony Robbins, and we were talking about and Ed Milet talking about the reticular activating system. That whatever you look for, you're going to find. Even like you talked about Think and Grow Rich. Well, he learned from Mr. Carnegie, and Mr. Carnegie said that your obsessions become your possessions. So whatever you look for, you're going to find. And I think that's what you're talking about. If you're looking for happiness, if you're looking for health, if you're looking for success, you're going to start looking for those things and finding those things. And on the opposite, if you're looking for not being healthy, for being broke, for being in a bad relationship, that's going to happen too. So,
That's
and I believe that if you say that I can or I can't, you're right. So
true.
talk about the mindset and the reticular activating system.
The No More 9 to 5 Club 101. The quality of your thoughts will determine the quality of your life. If you are the type that finds complaints, finds a reason to not be happy, let's say you want to nag your spouse all day long, or you want to complain to your business partners of what's not working. Eventually, they're not going to want to hear about what's not working anymore. They're going to want you to offer a solution. Your spouse is going to ask you to do the same thing. They're going to get tired of you complaining. Just imagine how everybody watching this feels when somebody around them brings up something constantly that makes them uncomfortable. If you're bringing up something to yourself that makes you uncomfortable, maybe you're going to stay in that lane because you're doing it to yourself. That's why I talked about stacking those wins, right? The pursuit of happiness is enough to keep me happy. I don't need a win today. I don't need a win tomorrow to get a dopamine boost, to know that when I'm showing up, when I'm not in the hospital, when I'm able to get on this phone and do the things that I want to do, I'm free. I'm doing the pursuit of happiness. And a lot of that's powered by having an automated business, having time freedom, having a clear schedule. So you guys have to do some soul searching. You really have to do some soul searching and some accountability. We were taught when we were kids, Santa Claus knows when we're sleeping, knows when we're awake. And then, of course, religion, right? God knows all the things that's inside of our head. You can't hide it from him. You can't lie to your own brain. So when you think about it, why would you trick yourself? Why would you coach yourself? Why would you be the type of friend to yourself? We all know how to talk to ourselves, right? Please, be your own best friend first and foremost. Why would you nag and complain to you about your life? What type of friend would you like to be to yourself? The type of friend that points out every single flaw, or the type of friend that actually encourages them to make life better? Say, hey, I brought you some cake. I like you, but I'm going to give it to you after you do some push-ups because you should have a nice chest. Think about what kind of friend you want to be to yourself, and be that friend, be that coach, be that mentor. Hey, if you're military and you need me to put it like this, be that drill instructor if that's what you need. Just show up and support you to be your best self.
And like James Clear wrote in his book Atomic Habits, and I think that's where I think you've got a lot of some of this stuff from, is that either you rule your schedule or your schedule is going to rule you. And also, when I sit down with my clients, the first thing I ask them to do, I say, tell me right for the next week, I want you to write down all your screen time, whether that's TV or that's phone time. And then if you really want to be a serious business person, and this changed my life. I sat down with Mr. Brunson, and he talked to me about how you can either be a social media producer or you can be a consumer. And that changed my life because then I realized, wait a minute, I'm spending 80% of my time consuming and not making any money, or I'm going to spend 20% of my time making money. And then when I talked to the two Dans, Dan Martell and Dan Sullivan, that's when they said, hey, you need to 80% is what you need to focus on that makes you money. And then the 20% could be the rest of the screen time. So talk to us about how there's a difference between being a producer and a consumer.
Let's talk about that. Sure. So remember before I built the No More 9 to 5 Club, I said I spent time on social media. Wait, before I get into this, let me point out one thing. I got to tell you, I didn't get this from any of those books. Since I retired, I probably didn't read as many books as I could have and should have. I actually listened to the audio book of Think and Grow Rich, and I'm actually not familiar with the other books. All these things were just kind of learned over time. So I'm not trying to say that these guys aren't awesome or hasn't been said before. This is all coming from the heart, nothing regurgitated. Now, before I built the club, I was a consumer of social media. I had free time. That's why I got bored and started nonprofits, homeschooled the kids. I started planting plants. My passion is actually gardening. I love growing food. It makes me happy. And I went back to school for my MBA. At that point, I'm just consuming social media. And that's when I started noticing these good people in the world that were trying to do better time after time again. And sometimes to the point of devastating consequences from being led wrong, failing. Has anybody ever spent money on something that didn't work? I have, right? It sucks. It's not a good feeling. Charge back. Anyways, I've never had a charge back, and that's because I actually like to try to serve people. And when we're at the point in life where we've been able to produce these things, learn these things, it's really important that we become, instead of a consumer, a producer. We start leading. Instead of scrolling all day, supporting people, engaging, oh yeah, look at that, learning this, oh, let me attend this event. I realized I have to spend a lot less time on social media because I need to build something to help these people. And that's where my switch from consumer to producer happened. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I agree. And I was talking to a friend of mine, and he takes 180 days a year to do things, go places, have fun. But he says that other 180 days, he's crushing. Because I think for me, when I go on, I'm going on my second cruise this year, or my sixth vacation this year. When I go away for that 8 days, when I come back, I'm hungry. Because now, like the first cruise we went on, we stayed on the regular level. The next cruise we're going on, we're staying at the top level. And now it's like, I'm thinking the third one, I'm like, I want the presidential suite, baby. I want to be able to enjoy. I want to go bigger. So I think you need those times I call them resets. You definitely need resets time, because if you're just grinding and you don't get any time to reset your goals, because, if your goals don't scare you, they're not big enough, obviously. So talk about, getting that respite time, that vacation time, that even just a couple hours in the garden, or going on a fishing trip in Florida, going on a couple hour boat ride. How important is that to entrepreneurs? Because they got the Gary V mindset. I got to grind. I got to grind. I got to grind. I got to grind. But when I go on vacation and I see my wife enjoying herself, standing on crystal staircases, that gets me motivated to do better. So how important is that?
All right, so let me just start. It's incredibly important. Let me start by saying, remember I said I built a life that I didn't want a vacation from? The first version of the club was a business that I needed a vacation from. I mean, I was balls to the walls, long days, client calendar full of people, like lead generation work too good. I didn't like it. I wanted to build a business that I didn't need a vacation from too. So I'm actually the opposite. When I go on cruises like we did, I think it was a 5-week cruise where we did and we went up the Panama Canal, and we went to Seattle, then we did Alaska. Like, we just this long thing. I missed home, but I bought Wi-Fi the whole time. So that way I didn't miss any of my meetings, not because I had to be there, because my people can run the meetings. I have a whole bunch of experts, but because I genuinely miss them. There's only so much food I can eat. I've hit the gym. I spent time with the family. They need a break from me. So I came back to my business to get a break from vacation because I built a business that I can love and appreciate. So a little bit different, but if you are in that grind, that Gary Vee mode, 16 hours a day, 14 hours a day, 12 hours a day, 5, 6, 7 days a week, your cup starts to get drained. If you're feeling like your energy is getting lower, it probably is. You can burn out. You can crash and fail. Everybody, like in the military. All right, Richard, you served for a long time, so you know that there's times where we don't get enough sleep. We're not getting the most nutritious food out there, but we have to persevere. But that's why they give us R&R, right? That's why they gave us those breaks whenever they could. They made sure that they worked us, but they allowed us to still keep our sanity and recover enough to get back to it. And every single person watching this needs to look at their energy levels, especially because you're not a 20, 24-year-old dude anymore, or chick, or whoever. You really have to monitor your health. What's the purpose of having an amazing business and all this money that you can leave your kids just to go away and leave it to them too soon? When what they actually needed was your time. What they actually needed was your knowledge. What they actually needed was your love. Don't leave a legacy earlier than you have to. Take care of yourself. Take those vacations. Take those walks with the missus. Take the dinner break with the family to make sure that you're listening to how their day went. It's important. You'll never get it back. Your business can wait. And if it can't, if you need support, hire us. We've got a team of people. We got virtual assistants you can white label and delegate to. It is amazing what happens when you build an automated business that you can actually walk away from it. And drop the mic. That's all I got, brother. I'm just kidding.
Well, and also I want to talk about, because I think this means a lot. I believe that what good, even the Bible says, what good is it to gain the world but lose your soul? But also, what good is it to have the big house, the big car, the big boat, but you're eating by yourself at the kitchen table because your old lady just hauled ass because you're not dating your wife, first of all. And I believe that for me, I tell all my clients that your family deserves what's right and not what's left. And that they would much appreciate your presence way more than your presence. So how like for me, my wife, she's the CEO of the company. She's the CFO. Without her, I wouldn't be able to do any of this. But she's my partner in this. And she'll be like, sometimes she'll be like, "Hey, Junior, you need to settle down. The family needs you a little bit, or you're spending a little bit too much there." So it's how important it is to have that before you start a business, if you're married, to have that hard conversation at the kitchen table before you start a business, instead of 6 months later when you're in debt and you got to have an even harder conversation.
It's so important to get aligned with your family, especially your spouse, because you're right. You don't want to end up sitting alone, eating at that table. And investing the time to make sure that you're not failing in your other obligations in life is going to be very important no matter what you choose. You don't want to drop the ball and give up on your life because of a passion. Everything in balance. So having that conversation is hugely critical, because if you don't have that support, then you're going to end up with that nagging. You're going to end up with what I like to call a potential hater. Somebody that you love is now disliking what you love. That's a problem. It's like having a side piece. Your wife could literally look at that like, "You're cheating on me. You picked the business over me." Yeah. And that can cause a lot of turmoil in your relationship. However, if you sit there and you take the time at the beginning, "Babe, I'm building this. Here's my projections. I have these experts backing me. I really know this is going to work. It's not going to completely take away. If anything, when I do this and pull it off right, I'm going to be able to have more free time. I'm going to be able to take you better places. We're going to be able to get that presidential suite. I'm not saying it's going to be a short, easy road, but I'm dedicated. And I want you to know how serious I am, because I need your love and support through this process more than anything." It's so critical to have that conversation. Just like, a marriage is a partnership, right? If you can't communicate, it's like your unit, right? you need to move effectively as a team. That's why in the military we train, we do exercises so that we know what we're doing when the time comes to do it. So why would you not prepare your family for entrepreneurship? Why would you not let them know? Like, my kids are so amazing. We brought them to like, we went to the Great Discovery event at their inaugural event in Orlando. And, we were all sitting around. Next thing you know, my kids are talking to people. I'm getting invited to the VIP table. I'm like, did y'all invite me because of who I am? Or is it because of how well my kids showed up while I had to step away for a few hours and left them in the room? They're walking around with positivity. I'm going to be an environmental engineer and help change the world. I'm walking back from a meeting. They're like, are those your kids? And I'm like, yeah, those are my kids. They're like, wow, they're so amazing. Apparently both of my kids went on stage and spoke.
They learn. They learn. But before we and then we're gonna start wrapping up. But for me, my bride is my everything. She's my protector. She actually literally protects my blind side. But about 12 weeks ago, I almost took myself out. But it was because of her just telling me to get in bed and wrapping her arms around me and didn't say a word. He just held me for a couple hours. I didn't take my life. But sometimes marriage is 50-50. Sometimes it's 0-100. And at that moment, I was at 0 and she was at 100. So, guys, if you're in a relationship and you think marriage is 50-50, that's bullshit. Sometimes, like I said, sometimes it's 80-20, sometimes it's 70-30. I was at 0 when I almost took myself out, and she was at 100. So if you're going to be in a marriage, realize that it's not ever 50-50. So I just wanted to say that I think there might be somebody out there that might be struggling with their marriage, and I just wanted, for some reason, God just put that in my heart.
I love that, brother. And I want to let you know that I want to reach through and give you a big old hug through the camera. The camera's on this side. Big old hug. I know we're not in person, but I'm so happy that whatever you were going through, you were able to open up to her, and she was able to power you back up, because that's what we're supposed to do for each other, especially in a relationship. But you have me, my brother, and I'm sure you have a whole lot of amazing friends. You have a whole lot of purpose. So super happy that y'all made that choice to power you back up. And anybody else hearing this that may feel like they're powered down, I know a lot of us, especially guys, we don't want to be vulnerable, right? Yeah. We're used to having to be stoic. We're the leader. We're the provider. We're tough. But it's okay. It is okay to need help. I promise you. And you should be able to get that help from your spouse. You should have a good lioness in your corner, watching your six, just like Richard just said. And if you don't, you need to realize it. You need to realize that, having a good support system, I'm not saying spend all your time on trying to date to find the right one, but you need to really make sure that you have a positive support system. You have somebody that cares about you. You have your social circle. If you're not married, you need to have your social circle around you supporting you. Check in with people regularly. If you don't have anybody to check in with us. We'll be here for you. But make sure you get that support. Make sure you have somebody in your corner cheering for you. It is incredibly important to you for your mental health, your future, your well-being, that you are loved. You have purpose. You have an opportunity to lack shame from any mistakes you've made in the past, because you know right from wrong, and you can get up and do better tomorrow.
I love it. And anybody that knows me knows that I only kneel for my Lord, and I kneel for my Queen. That's it. So now this is a teaching podcast, and I promised them that they would get 3 things that they can do today to start getting out of that 9 to 5. So if Private Joe Snuffy is just getting out of the military today, was it September 25th or something, 2024, what would be your top 3 pieces of advice for a brand new business owner?
All right, so he's just getting out of the military and he's starting a business.
Yep. Because he knows that he knows that he can't follow the rules that great, and he doesn't like the way that the civilian work. Oh, I'm going to get to work and I'm going to have my coffee. I'll start work about 9:30. Then 10 o'clock, I'm going to have another break. And it knows that he can't handle that because he's too high speed.
I love it. All right. So the first piece of advice I have for you, sir, is to learn how to learn. Get ready to adapt faster and overcome faster than you've ever had to before. You will be wrong more often than you're right when you're starting your startup before you become profitable. So you need to learn how to recognize it quickly, let go of your emotions, and fix it and move on. Second one. Now you're learning how to learn for the first one. Mindset. You might have some of those long Gary Vee days that Mr. Richard was just talking about. Long days, triumphs, failures. It's important that you don't get thrown off track and that you don't have shiny object syndrome. You don't get distracted by every squirrel or long pair of legs walking by. You need to really have a fully well-developed plan. So that's going to bring me in my third one. Find mentors. Find people that know how to help you and get those people to listen to you. Say, I have a plan. I have a dream. And what I always tell people whenever I meet them, as I say, please, if you find any gap to excellence that you can notice, even if I don't agree with you, I want to hear about it because I want you to poke any holes that you can think of in my ship. And I promise to try to patch it up so I can sail faster. And if you have that mindset, you get the mentors and you learn how to learn, chances are you'll find success sooner rather than later.
And I love it, brother. So if somebody wants to find you, how do we support your mission? How do we get into your ecosystem?
Sure. So the NoMore9to5Club.com, the NoMore9to5Foundation.org. We're across a bunch of social media platforms. I think I'm actually airing this podcast on our YouTube channel. You can look me up on Facebook, Jason McNamara, aka Jason No More 9 to 5. Just check out the No More 9 to 5 Club, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, all over the place. So any of those things work. Social media, going straight to the website, signing up for the boot camp or for the, what I call the complimentary membership. You get several free courses, tons of value in there, and we're here to serve. So again, don't be shy to tell us what your mission is, who you are, what you're doing. Reach out and say hi. We also have networking events the first and third Saturday. So anybody at 1 p.m. Eastern who wants to join us, I'd be more than happy to invite all high vibe people, entrepreneurs and not, to come join the No More 9 to 5 Club and meet some of the amazing people in the club. You know, we've had tremendous amounts of success, from startups to homeless people that are now in housing to people starting from an idea to a patent to Walmart and Amazon.com. So we've got a ton of experience and years of wisdom, and it's not just mine.
I love it. And guys, I just want to thank Gorilla Mind for energy drink, keeping me going. But I also, if you guys look up above, we have a website, verticalmomentumpodcast.com, where we have swag, t-shirts, hoodies, coffee, my books, and I'm putting this out there today. If anybody, including yourself, Jason, buys anything from me, whether it be a t-shirt, a hat, or a book, whatever, they will get something worth over $997 in value. If you buy anything from me, all you got to do is go to verticalmomentumpodcast.com and let me know that you purchased the thing. Now, a lot of people say, oh, why would I buy anything? Well, because 100% of the proceeds go to help veterans struggling with PTSD and suicide. I make no money from it. So if you guys are interested in helping the mission with Project Die Hard, pick out something from upside, let me know that you got it, and I'm going to hook you guys up. Now, Jason, brother, I just want to say, hopefully me and you can build a generational relationship from this point on. And when I come down to Florida, I love to meet up, hang out. You can show me how to fish because I don't know how to fish, but I'd love to hang out sometime.
Excellent, brother. Excellent. And by the way, you know Brian with Project Die Hard?
Yes, that's where my money goes.
That's amazing. So we're actually getting ready for a potential collaboration. We've met a few times. We're doing some things with Kurt. So all right, good deal. We got a lot of synergies. You know, our money actually goes back to our membership.
Kurt who? You said Kurt?
Yeah, the World of Ability podcast.
Okay.
Yep. And he's a huge supporter of Project Die Hard. But I was going to say, we too have a nonprofit foundation, and that's where we're going to partner with them on. So we give vets free membership, or complimentary. We also have complimentary brain entrainment technology to help people overcome PTSD. So if anybody's suffering, or if you know anybody suffering, please send them our way. I had to make that last plug out there since you were talking about it. And Richard, if I can, one more thing. We have a merch store too. So I haven't thought about this. I haven't drove a lot of traffic, but we have amazing hats, amazing shirts. You'll see them in some of my other videos. I'm going to put a challenge out there. If anybody orders a hat or a shirt, they send me a video of it, I'll give you a year of professional membership for free. Actually, as a matter of fact, the first person to do it, let's give them a lifetime professional membership for free. In this membership, we give people one-on-one support weekly, as well as all the group meetings and everything else. We have software as a service where they can completely automate all aspects of their business, calendar, automation, CRM, like a ton of value. So I'd be honored to not only donate that to somebody watching this, but work with Project Die Hard and all these other missions to generate revenue, because that is our goal. We have a two-tier 33% affiliate structure, and the last bit actually powers our nonprofit foundation that makes all this possible. So there's so much synergy. I love it.
I love it. And God's working. He does his thing. So, and guys, as you know, I always end with this. I'm a big Joel Osteen guy, and something that he told me, and we got the new t-shirts coming out. It says, I'm a winner. And the back says, I'm a champion. And I believe that when we wake up every morning, we have a choice. We can be a victor or we can be a victim. And if you listen to this show, you're no longer a victim of your past, but you're a victor of your present and your future. So, guys, I always want to say thank you for always showing up strong. Thank you for being part of VM Nation. Brother, I'm so grateful. This was fun. I think I could talk to you for hours.
It's been an amazing conversation, and we're going to have to continue it at some point. I know we got to get off the podcast tonight. We both got family duties and other stuff to do, but we're going to be linking up again. I would love to invite you to co-host something with me at the club. I don't know if we can live stream it, but I'd love for you to drop some knowledge to my audience.
Whenever you want, brother, I'm in.
Let's set it up. Thank you, my brother.
I love you guys. Remember, vertical momentum. The only way to go is up. I love you guys. Have an amazing week.